How much would you be willing to pay to have access to the exact service delivery workflow to close $3, $4, $5, $6,000 a month retainers? With this framework, our clients have helped their own clients generate millions in revenue. The great news are that you don't have to pay anything, because in this video I'm going to be walking you through the exact workflow that our clients use to close fat deals and get amazing results. So pretty much how I have structured this workflow and how I have structured this process. We have 4 different yellow boxes here, and as you can see, we have calls booked from outbound, we have closing rate, we have show up rate, and we also have inbound leads from social media. If you're able to get someone a lot of leads through outbound, if you can help them to close a lot of those deals, if you can help them to get a higher show up rate, so a lot of the meetings actually show up, and if you can also help them get a lot of inbound leads on the side, just by doing these 4 things, you can get crazy results for people. Pretty much how this process is used, just for context, we run a company called agentvelocity.io, which is pretty much a consulting company where we consult lead generation agencies on how to make their service better and how to charge more money for their service, etc. They pretty much show this lucid chart to their prospects and they're like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and then they just follow the checklist. This has been made, so it's really easy to check off. So the first thing here, we start out from the most important one. So is the client already booking 10 calls a month from outbound? So if you start working with a company, the first thing you need to check, okay, are they already using cold email? Are they already using outbound? And if they are they already booking 10 calls a month? If the answer is no, then you want to start outbound with cold email, because when you actually figure out how to get the meetings through outbound, you also figure out the messaging and the offer and the niche, and pretty much everything is going to be so much easier. So you start outbound with cold email, and after running 5 feedback loops, you see, is the cold email campaigns booking over 10 calls a month already? If they are not, then you want to ask yourself, okay, does the client have a video sales letter explaining their claim and their mechanism and their status delta and an offer, and do they have a conversion focused funnel? If the answer is no, you create a sales letter using the sales letter framework. You have a client fill in the VSL using the sales letter you already created. You put it on the website or on the funnel, and then you start outbound again and you tweak the sales letter based on the feedback. And then you once again go through 5 different feedback loops and see if the cold email campaigns are now booking 10 calls. If they are not, you go on to the next point. So you conduct 10 interview calls with prospects or clients. So you actually talk to the market. And then based on the interview calls you have done, you analyze the interviews and tweak the offer, positioning, and target audience based on what the actual market told you. So in some cases, you start working with a company and you start doing them lead gen. And the company tells you that we sell this thing to these people and this is our value proposition. You're like, okay, that's dope. And then you start running cold email campaigns and you're not getting any results. Then you actually go and you talk to the market and the market tells you that they want something else. So sometimes there just isn't a fit. So you have to fix that through conducting these interview calls. Based on that, you recreate cold email campaigns in VSL if necessary, based on a new thesis, and you start outbound with cold email again. And this is pretty much the only things you need to do. And you just spin through this loop until you are booking 10 calls a month. And then if for some reason you are not booking 10 calls a month, you also have the interview angle here if it needs to be used. Then when the client is already booking 10 calls a month from outbound, obviously you want to make sure that those calls are getting closed. So you want to make sure that the client has a 20% closing rate. So if they don't have a 20% closing rate, what you do is you ask yourself, okay, does the client have a CRM and do they use it correctly? If the answer is no, you implement the CRM, you train the client on the CRM, and you schedule a weekly CRM check-in call to make sure that they're actually using it. And then you wait 60 days because sales cycles also can take a bit of time. And if in 60 days, you again ask yourself, okay, is the client already closing 20% of the calls? Then you see if the client has basic sales fundamentals down. Are they actually closing? Are they handling objections? Are they doing discoveries and demos separately? How are they booking the calls? Do they disqualify? How do they qualify the clients? If the client doesn't have the basic sales fundamentals down, you conduct sales training for a client and create better sales SOPs, and then you wait 30 days and you see if that made an impact. If still it hasn't made any impact, then you analyze call recordings, objections, and questions in calls, and you write a better sales argument. Because if they have a CRM and they're using it and they're following up and they understand the basic sales fundamentals, if they are still not closing over 20% of the calls, then the sales argument is wrong and you're just selling something that no one actually wants to buy, or you have wrong pricing economics, or you are targeting a wrong market, what it might be. So you need to just analyze it and write a better sales argument, and then you train the client on a new sales argument and ensure everything is understood on implementation. You pretty much just rework their service on their positioning and the mechanism they actually use to get results. So then when the client is already booking 10 calls a month and they're already closing 20% of those calls, you check if the client has a show up rate of over 75%. So if 100 calls are booked in the client's calendar, will over 75% of those people show up to the actual call? If the answer is no, you create or change the pre-call automations to remind and nurture prospects before a call. So this is really easy thing. You can just do it with an autoresponder or a Calendly. And you can just send a few emails and a few text messages before the call happens. And in most cases, that is going to bump up the show up rate to over 75%. But if the answer is still no, you create a pre-call VSL, you set expectations and inject status delta and push them on importance of showing up. customers. So you need to make sure that you have a solid pre-call VSL. You need to make sure that the client is seen as an authority. You need to make sure that people understand how important it is to show up and what will happen if they don't show up. And usually these things are going to be the things that fix it. If the show up rate is still under 75%, you need to inject more status delta into the funnel, VSL and pre-call automations, and ensure the messaging is clear for the call. So sometimes people are just saying that, yeah, like just press the button and book a call to get this free trial. And then people book the calls and they get the free trial and they don't actually care about the call. So they don't show up to the call. But if after all of these tweaks, you're still not getting a 75% show up rate, you need to inject more status delta. So just make them look more of a credibility, show more of their results, show more of their case studies, push the status delta everywhere. And you just do this until the show up rate is 75%. Then when you're booking 10 calls a month from outbound for the client and the client is already closing 20% of those calls, over 75% of those calls are showing up, then you see if the client is already getting over 10 inbound calls a month from social media. If the answer is no, once again, we optimize LinkedIn or pretty much any social media for a client, and we want to post content for them for 60 days while running soft outbound campaigns on platforms. And if the client is still booking over 10 calls, then you need to conduct more in-depth research on the market and gather feedback from already posted content and create better content. So literally, if you're doing content for 2 months straight and you're running soft outbound campaigns and you have already cracked it on cold email, if you are still not getting over 10 calls a month through social media, literally you just are writing bad content or the wrong content. So if, for example, you want to sell an HR service to HR managers, then obviously your content needs to talk to these HR managers and talk about their problems and their pains and their desires, and it needs to showcase why it actually works. So if you're not writing the right content or if it's not written well, then obviously you're not going to book enough calls. So then it's just literally a skill issue of you not being good enough. You're getting them 10 calls a month from outbound. They're closing 20% of those calls. The show up rate is over 75%. And they're also getting over 10 calls a month from social media. From your content, you are literally printing them money. You're getting them like 3, 4, 5, 6 deals every single month. And imagine if the lifetime value of a client is, for example, 50K and you're getting them 5 deals a month, you're pretty much making them $250,000 every single month through this process. And if you have a 5% rev share on that or a 10% rev share on that, you're literally becoming rich. After you have done all of those things, you just pretty much keep running the machine, analyzing bottlenecks and growing clients' business with solutions specific to them. So for example, automations that streamline their operations, coming up with upsell and downsell opportunities in their sales process. You scale a YouTube channel with the client, you create new sales letters and distribute it with outbound and social media, and you go into new verticals and repeat this exact same process. So if you want to learn how to specifically fulfill every single part here, so how to do the cold email campaigns, how to do the VSLs, how to do the interviews, how to do the CRM implementations, how to do content, how to do these automations. If you want to learn all of these small things and just learn how to sell this and how to deliver amazing results and scale a B2B lead gen agency to $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 a month doing this stuff, what you can do is you can check out agencyvelocity.io. They have crazy case studies. You can check them on our websites. We have gotten crazy results. We have an absolutely beautiful community of people there, and I would love to see you there as well. Subscribe. Take care. Boom.